You're watching a replay from the 49th Annual Gabelli Automotive Symposium, recorded live via Zoom in Las Vegas. This presentation is shared as originally broadcast. Minor technical interruptions may be present due to the live recording format. Thank you for tuning in.
I'm Brian Sponheimer. Thank you to those joining online and those who are here for day two of our 49th Annual Automotive Symposium. Just call your attention to the slide that's being presented. We do have 9 events, 9 symposiums run by Gabelli Funds that cover a whole host of really interesting topics. Our next will be at Convene 237 Park on November 14th. It's a healthcare symposium looking at various aspects of the overall healthcare industry and system, and I think it's going to be a terrific event. So I'd encourage you to reach out and get registered for that. Today, day 2 of our conference. Once again, my colleague, I'm joined by Eddie Nakamura, 2 days off the New York Marathon, so potentially a little bit more ambulatory today. He's going to do a little bit more in the way of walking to this podium and doing some Q&A as well. And of course, our colleague, Carolina Jolly, sends her regards from maternity leave and her second boy, third child. Today, just as I mentioned yesterday, it's going to be a more aftermarket driven day, but we'll start with a really interesting company in MP Materials that is really leading the charge in rare earth elements and magnets within the U.S. Focus then goes to the aftermarket with LKQ, Genuine Parts and Standard Motor Products in the morning, along with AutoNation, which is one of the largest dealership groups in the U.S. Once again, we're delighted to have 2 companies that we haven't had for some time in Advanced Auto Parts and Dorman thereafter. AutoZone will tell us everything DIY that you'll ever want to know. Got a great lunch speaker, Melinda Zabritsky, talking about the state of auto finance and the consumer. And then we'll end the day with Phinia, an OE and auto or aftermarket supplier, along with O'Reilly, and then Monroe, which can talk about the service element and potentially some of the issues facing the consumer. So as a reminder, about 1.3 billion vehicles on the road globally. 290 million of those are in the U.S., and the aftermarket in size is over $400 billion. It's actually about 430 or so, and it's grown over 30% over the course of the last 5 years. A lot of that is age of the vehicle. A lot of that is return of miles driven. We'll talk about that in a second, but also inflation. It's also a growing vehicle base that's expected to grow to 300 million by 2030 at an average age of upwards of 13 years. And we'll talk about the impact or lack thereof that electric vehicles are having on the automotive aftermarket. Even with the most rosy projections for electric vehicle sales, we're still looking at around 3 to 3.5% of the total vehicle park or the total vehicle population by 2030 at best. We're going to talk about one of the reasons that the aftermarket continues to thrive, particularly the do-it-for-me side, is that's parts complexity. That is a picture of an old wheel end, just some ball bearings and a couple of moving parts, and now we have electronic valve controls and just a host of different technologies that turn a part from a $10 or $15 part into about a $200 part. The recovery in miles driven, I think, is important when we talk about some of the growth that the aftermarket has seen. This goes back to 2024, but we're up about 2% again this year. So we'll be about 3.35 to 3.4 million in a recovery from COVID lows. Obviously, wear and tear on a car means more people needing them serviced. We're going to talk about supply chain, and we'll get into that, but I think the aftermarket's done an excellent job understanding both nearshoring, friendshoring, and the ability to pass along tariff-related inflation. We've included this. We refer to it as a breadbasket of parts. So if you were to go back 10 years for just some parts you would typically want to get for your vehicle, whether it's an oil filter, a brake pad kit, wiper blades, and a cabin air filter. In 2015, that would have cost you just under $80. When we talk about parts inflation and some of both the challenges and opportunities that the aftermarket has faced, that's about $150 breadbasket of about four sets of parts just in a 10-year period. So the inflation that this industry has had to contend with has been substantial. We are going to ask whether inflation is cooling within the aftermarket. We've certainly seen 2022 and 2023 on a 2-year stack, double-digit inflation there with some cooling over the course of the past year, and how the aftermarket reacts, whether the retailers are able to continue to drive margin expansion in that kind of environment. As we spoke about with MEMA and the Auto Aftermarket Suppliers Association yesterday, factoring, supply chain financing, and off-balance sheet debt. These are topical items that, at least what we heard yesterday, appear to be more specific to First Brands and the bankruptcy that they were forced into after both corporate and off-balance sheet debt really changed the trajectory of how credit agencies viewed them. But it's going to be talked about today, and it's going to be a really interesting topic. Just speaking about the consumer and what drives aftermarket activity, we have seen some relief on gas prices, down to not quite at 2020 lows, but in a decent place around $3 per gallon, really in an area where the consumer is able to handle gas prices. And we'll talk about, we had the opportunity, at least with LKQ and with Genuine Parts, to talk about a global aftermarket and what's going on in Europe, and in the case of Genuine Parts, Asia. And that's important as a growing auto park, a more complex auto park, and an older auto park is factored into to the global auto population. Obviously, e-commerce has always been a story, and every few years or so, the aftermarket has to contend with an Amazon-related story of entering the auto industry, whether it's on the used vehicle side or the automotive aftermarket, but really aftermarket online penetration remains just under 5%. So obviously a lot to start with our presentations in a moment, but once again, I'd like to thank my colleagues from the Gabelli organization who helped set up a fantastic day yesterday and an even better dinner.
Brian Sponheimer is a portfolio manager and Edward Nakamura is a research analyst at Gabelli Funds. This webcast is a recording from the 49th Annual Automotive Symposium, which occurred on November 3rd and November 4th, 2025, in Las Vegas, Nevada. GAMCO is providing these links as a matter of general information. We do not intend for these links to be a complete description of any security or company, nor is it a research report with respect to any of the companies mentioned herein. As of September 30th, 2025, affiliates of GAMCO Investors Incorporated beneficially own 24.44% of Stratec, 10.09% of Rush Enterprises Class B and less than 1% of Class A, 6.44% of Standard Motor Products, 4.39% of Monroe, 3.96% of Dana, 1.68% of AutoNation, 1.17% of Advance Auto Parts and less than 1% of all companies mentioned. The analysts' views are subject to change at any time based on market and other conditions. The information in this posting represents the opinions of the analyst and is not intended to be a forecast of future events, a guarantee of future results, or investment advice. Views expressed are those of the analyst and may differ from those of other GAMCO officers, analysts, other employees, or of the firm as a whole. Because the investment personnel at GAMCO and our affiliates make individual investment decisions with respect to the client accounts that they manage, These accounts may have transactions inconsistent with the information contained in this posting. Certain GAMCO personnel may know the substance of the posting prior to its posting. This webcast is not an offer to sell any security, nor is it a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Stocks are subject to market, economic and business risks that cause their prices to fluctuate. When you sell shares, they may be worth less than what you paid for them. For more information, a prospectus, or summary prospectus, visit our website at www.gabelli.com or call 800 Gabelli 800 422 3554 914 921 5100 fax 914 921 5118 info@gabelli.com.